with a clap. We have Professor Bwisa. He's read all the books, even the ones that have not been written. So he's going to tell us. We have Joshua Ongwe. And today is Commonwealth Day. And this is a Commonwealth Day Networking and Mentorship Symposium for university students, where we are having alumni from Commonwealth, those who have had Commonwealth scholarships and fellowships, interacting directly with university students who aspire to be Commonwealth scholars and also professionals in society. And our panel discussion topic is the impact of Commonwealth scholars and fellows in different sectors of development and their role in mentoring students. So, my panelists, let's just get straight to the point. Please kindly tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you. Henry Bwisa, Professor Henry Bwisa. I'm a professor of entrepreneurship at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. I'm also the former chairman of the Kenya Investment Authority, and I'm the current chairman of the African Agribusiness Incubators Network. We are saying the youth opportunities are in agriculture. Although we used to look at agriculture as a punishment, because in school punishment was agriculture, we want to turn it around. I didn't have a Commonwealth scholarship, but in those years, I remember 1975, I got a government scholarship to go to the Soviet Union. So I'm an alumni of the Soviet Union, not Russia. It was Soviet Union, now it's Russia. I'm here to talk about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Peter. Prof, was it the same when you were going to Russia, Professor Bwisa?
Yes, when I was in high school, 1974, 25 or 6, the word computer had just come up, and almost all of us, where I was at Crane School Kamsinga, we wanted to get degrees in computer, and we were told, probably because of lack of proper guidance, proper career guidance, we were not properly told that there is no degree in computer in Kenya at that time, but there was a unit of computer within business studies in the in Kenyatta University. But me, because I wanted computer very much, I chose first choice computer, second choice computer, and third choice computer. And you can guess I was not taken, because there was no degree in computer. I was taken to Kenya Polytechnic then by the Ministry of Works to be a land surveyor. But I wanted to be in a university. So I kept my eyes open, my ears open, and I was looking for any opportunity. Then there were the technical cooperation between countries, in this case between Soviet Union and Kenya. Then there was a scholarship advertised by the government of Kenya for people who qualify. I applied for it. I was interviewed. I did mathematics and physics and geography. And there it is. I passed, and I went to the Soviet Union. So I wanted really to be in university, and I didn't give up, even when I had missed to get a degree of computer, which did not exist at that time. So persistence and focus will get you there.
Thank you. Believe in yourself. But that brings me to the professors. Are we churning out half-baked graduates from our universities? Are they ready for the job market?
As a professor of entrepreneurship, let me talk from that particular point of view. That unfortunately, yes, in entrepreneurship, we're churning out half-baked graduates. Because we are not teaching people to be entrepreneurs, we're teaching them about entrepreneurship. We come to class and we describe an entrepreneur. We talk of the problems that entrepreneurs face, but we do not tell them how you are going to solve it, and we don't make them solve that problem so that they start being entrepreneurs themselves. And in my own opinion, one of the reasons lies in the Commission of University Education rules and regulations. If we are going to force us to give written examinations for entrepreneurs at end of semester 3-hour written exam, yes, we shall produce first-class honors, but we are not going to produce practitioners. Personally, I am one cardinal rule in entrepreneurship is creative destruction. You destroy something but replace it with something better. Look at M-Pesa. M-Pesa came, it creatively destroyed something, and so I am actually, with due respect to my Vice Chancellor, I am not giving any written exams to my students. And I'm waiting until I am chased away from the university because of breaking the rules. My students, anyone with a smartphone, open Google, go to the YouTube of Professor Buisa, and see my students, their examinations are projects, and they started businesses when they're still in campus. So I'm saying that, yes, we are trying, but we're not trying good enough. And the examination rules of the land are not helping us much.
We pray that Professor Buisa won't be chased away for being innovative. But we have an advocate there in Professor Okoth, the VC.
Thank you very much. I think I agree with him.
One, entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship is basically two things: creativity and innovation. And what the keynote speaker talked about, said there are 5 people and is one of them. Who is the fourth person here? Thinking, looking at yourself, and what Prof talked about, critical thinking. And finally, what he has talked about, opportunities. The richest man in the world now, I'm told, is Bill Gates. And he says the following: if you were born poor, that's not your mistake. But should you die poor, that surely is your mistake. Because what is poor? Poor has 4 letters, P-O-O-R. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. And that's what we do. We remain poor because we keep passing over opportunities repeatedly. I want to ask, after I finish, after I finish water in this bottle, where should I take it? Of course, if you are in Rwanda, you want to throw it around. Do you see money here? Do you see wealth here? Do you see an opportunity here? Again, go to my YouTube. I'm making brooms from this bottle. The opportunities are there with us. I've just come from Isiolo, and I was training the farmers in Isiolo, and particularly in the Muslim world. The woman does, actually generally almost all over, the woman does all the jobs. This lady, I have videos of them. They take the goats to the market on market day. They sell. The middlemen are there. And when they come out of the market, the men are waiting to take the money. And these ladies go to sell goats only once on the market day. And the young men out there, shy, they say agriculture is that. And I asked the young men, with the technology that we have been told here, with the apps that we have, can you see an opportunity? Can you sell those goats 24/7? And to cut the long story short, yes, we found, those goats are sold. I mean, they are put on lorries and brought in Kenya. I mean, in Nairobi. When they come from there, they say we have come to Kenya. They come to Nairobi whole, you know, a whole cow, a whole goat. I told them that is exporting wealth. Because when you export a whole goat to come to be slaughtered in a Dagoretti, you have exported the hooves, you have exported the skin, you have exported the horns, you have all that is, and even when they slaughter the blood that falls, you have exported it. That is wealth, and that is when we youth can look at innovatively converting waste into wealth. Having an app, for example, to sell the goods for that woman, so that he does not have to be going on the market, only on market day. She can now start selling with an app with pictures, with videos and all that. You order, and you are positioning yourself in Nairobi, you get the market, and you'll be selling 24/7. And one thing, the lady would have now saved the time of wasting time to go to the market to sell. He would have created time to do even something more in. So there are opportunities if we can think creatively, if we can think innovatively. The sky is just the lower limit.
Thank you, Prof. Just looking at these guys, young people with all the swag, and imagining soil, you know, and tilling the land, doing things that are related to agriculture. One word for them. How do you encourage these scholars that there is employment from agriculture? Just one line.
There is employment indeed. There is employment in agriculture. Think vertical farming, for example. This room here can produce for you sukuma that you would have produced in 4 acres if you are doing vertical farming. Ask me about vertical farming later.
Thank you, Prof. So let's give a round of applause to our panelists, because I'd like to now open this up to the audience so that you can ask a few questions. Please say to whom you're directing the question, and then we can see how we move on from there.
And the one for Professor Busa. I start with Professor Busa. You said that in Isiolo we have these women who are selling goats. And an opportunity that is there is that if somebody can start an app to ensure that these women can be selling these goods 24/7 instead of once in a week, can be very good. Now my question is, I've been once in a gender class, and the reason why these women are selling goods and their men are just sitting there is illiteracy level. These women are illiterate. So by saying that if someone can start an app, how can this app help these women? Yet they are illiterate. That is according to me.
Professor Buise mentioned on the education system. We're talking about educating people about entrepreneurship, yet it's just a matter of highlighting the point. This is also partly to Professor Koth. As the VC came in, you find like you get lecturers who are teaching in these institutions. Case example, I can talk of entrepreneurship. You're getting a lecturer who has never practiced any business anywhere. That's the person who is going to teach students to be entrepreneurs in the marketplace, to do something. How does it translate to the value that we have in our society? Thank you.
Let's take one more, and then we get the round of responses.
My name is Josephine Kanyari from Kenyatta University, final year in commerce. So my question was from Professor Buise, agriculture. The way it has been, when I was born, I saw there was Peretta everywhere. From Nairobi to Nakuru, there was Peretta everywhere. But we had stories that the Peretta got crashed, and now nobody grows Peretta. The same goes for coffee. People are selling their farms because there's no business in coffee. So what is your opinion on that, and what can we do to overcome that?
On that same, at Jomo Kenyatta University, we have, I think, almost all curricular courses of entrepreneurship. There is a unit called mentorship. How do I teach mentorship? I actually identify mentors and I attach them to my students. They are mentors. I'm not teaching mentorship in the class. Define mentorship. What are many types of mentorship are there? I attach my students to mentors. And again, like I said, if you go to my YouTube, you'll find my students who are saying mentorship based. Because they have been mentored, in fact, they have started businesses out of that mentorship, like apprenticeship. You know, you learn along with the expert. So mentorship, it paid for me and it has paid for my students. On Isiolo, contrary to what my brother there says, it's not too much of a literacy, much of culture. Even the illiterate Muslim woman, the culture is what matters. And fortunately for us, I had a week there, and that has changed. What were we doing? By getting the young guys, graduates, linking them with those women. It's the graduates who are going to do the apps. Those women don't know how to use the smartphones. They know how to send M-Pesa. They know how to communicate. So the gentleman, the boy is in Nairobi, in Isili with his app getting market, and then he communicates through the mobile phone with the lady in Isiolo, and life goes on. You don't have to force her also to be a specialist in the app, but we're now linking up the youth and the women. So it's more of culture. I come from Bungoma, my culture is Bukusu. I have a whole lecture on how our own culture has retarded entrepreneurship. It's also on my YouTube. So not illiteracy, but actually culture. And as far as I'm concerned, it is changing. We are seeing light at the end of that tunnel. My brother who talked about, yes, I want to agree with you. And my colleagues who are here, please, if you are a teacher of entrepreneurship, please start your own little business first. I want to advise you, use your own case studies to teach don't say Bill Gates, Winfrey Oprah. That environment is so far removed from us. And when you talk about examples of Bill Gates, and you cannot also start your own M-Pesa or even roasting maize. The other day, maybe those who follow me on my Facebook, I actually consoled the vice president when he said we don't want to produce people who are going to roast maize. If it is your business plan that I'm going to roast maize for 2 months and then graduate into Njenga Karume, died a billionaire, but he started by selling pencils in primary school, isn't it? And then even selling charcoal. Now, because of that, I also went around, did my research. I have now somebody producing charcoal, again on my YouTube, producing charcoal and employing graduates. But he is selling charcoal. Just like Bill Gates joked the other day. He was saying, he made his best engineer. And he said, when you were in school, I was not doing as well as you are doing. But now I'm employing you. But he made it as a joke, not that it was a student. Agriculture, bilateral. I think, to me, it is politics when it enters those boards. It's the politics that is kind of killing our boards. North Rift, Trans Nzoia, our maize. It's not me and you, we have done it. But where is the price? Where is the money? So I think it is a little tricky for me. But I'm saying that when politics enters too much into your business, then it becomes even more creative. Because again, with creativity and innovation, we can beat it.
My name is Josephine Kanyari from Kenyatta University, final year in commerce. So my question was from Dr. Abuse, agriculture. The way it has been, when I was born, I saw there was Pereta everywhere. From Nairobi to Nakuru, there was Pereta everywhere. But we had stories that the Pereta got crashed, and now nobody grows Pereta. The same goes for coffee. People are selling their farms because there's no business in coffee. So what is your opinion on that, and what can we do to overcome
Okay, that side, and then let's have this lady.
Professor Boyce. I'm looking at the recent trends in the agriculture sector in Kenya. Looking at, you are saying that entrepreneurship in terms of agribusiness. If you walk to town like maybe tomorrow, go to 10 people selling juice. 7 of those people, or 6 of them, the products they are selling, they are from Congo. 2 to 3 families that will eat eggs tomorrow morning. 2 out of 10, those eggs have come from Uganda, or even 4 of those families. Look at the recent rates. We are turning all our Arab land into brick and mortar. So where are we going wrong in terms of our country in trying to drive our agriculture? I also looked at the way JQI was those years when it was Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. I think we also have to wrap the word agriculture from that word, because there's no longer there. When you look at when campuses were being started by the university all over what I was referring to as those universities, most of them were business courses. Yes, they were saying Jomo Kenyatta University, but literally these are business, BCom, IT, ICT, but agriculture really, I think there's something that went wrong to me. Maybe I would like to see your, to hear your intervention on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have this lady.
Professor Buisa, I'd love to know how sustainable is the project you have started. I have picked out two themes from your speech. Number 1, power relations, and number 2, gender roles. And I'm glad you talked about culture, because that's what anthropologists really deal with. So when it comes to gender roles, it clearly shows that they are clearly defined in that society. When it comes to power relations, what effect does this development have on the household? Because I don't think the woman is literate. At the end of the day, she knows that she has to take back something to her husband, and she has to go back to the market. And also, I'd love to know, prior to bringing this development project, did you study the people, or did you kind of impose it on them? What if they did not have a problem with it? And has this affected the socialization process for the women?
So,
Okay, I have about 3 or 4. Let me say the following. All entrepreneurs are business people, but not all business people are entrepreneurs. All entrepreneurs are business people, but not all business people are entrepreneurs. The people you are seeing on the streets selling those njugus, that they are business people. We need to convert them into entrepreneurs. I've not seen an entrepreneur on the street. I've seen only business people. And one reason is because we do not have an entrepreneurship policy in Kenya. We have an SME policy, small and medium enterprises policy, and not entrepreneurship policy. And entrepreneurship policy focuses on the person long before the person goes into business. An SME policy focuses on the farm, on a business that has already started. Look around, Weso Fund, You Women Fund, they say you must have been in business for the last 6 months, you must be in a group. How about our boys and girls who are in university and coming up? We are not taken care of because the policy is not there. And therefore we need, and the policy means, first, skills. And the skills should not start at university. They should start right at primary. Build the pyramid of education in this country. Dropouts of the school system. I mean, it bulges, it narrows us, isn't it? The people, the Form 4s who have now left and they are not going to university, what are they going to do? That's why things like competence-based curriculum should have been, the correct competence-based curriculum should have been. So what I'm saying is, what you are seeing, people going to Uganda and bringing in, even me, I told I come from Bungoma. When I reach Bungoma, I go to fill my tank in Uganda, because the petrol in Uganda is cheaper. Why? Tax regime of Kenya is upside down. Uganda gets its petrol from Mombasa on the road to Uganda, and then it's cheaper in Uganda. How? Ask yourself. So that is our tax regime, and therefore, I will say, not all is lost. We need to start it right at our even universities. Prof has said it all, business incubation. If every university can have a business incubation center, that will work a long way in helping us. On agriculture, agriculture as a subject in Jomo Kenyatta, yes, true. We had agriculture economics, then agribusiness, and we realized that actually we are losing that. But now we have indeed. And why are you going to setting up those law? And partly, I don't know whether the Vice Chancellor agree with me or not, but partly because we are forced into it by the government that we must first share. If the exchequer is not funding us, then we must look for ways of funding ourselves, and therefore some of us commercialize education. And therefore, we may not just, So I'm saying that it's true, it was realized, and now we have a completely new curriculum in agriculture, which is actually agripreneurship from from bachelor's up to PhD, and we hope that we shall turn around. On power relations, gender roles, and all that. Allow me to tell you a little story. I was doing an evaluation of Action Aid project in East Pokot, a place called Anglipe. And I went with my research methods, focus group discussions, interviews, and all that. And then I grouped people in a hall like we are here. And I started asking them to evaluate what, I found that indeed men were talking more than the youth and more than the women. And when we finished, one very bold lady, because in my team there were two ladies also, they approached the lady and said, look, you did it wrong. You cannot do a focused group discussion with men, women, and children, because the culture here is that children cannot talk where they are men. And so, and same applies to women. Then they told me a few other things, how they forgot look at a woman, and these were all adults here, particularly when she is in her period. They consider her that she cannot even milk the goat or whatever. So it struck me. So next day I said I want to meet the men alone, talk to them. And I started asking, there is only one good woman in this world. Who is he, man? There is only one good woman in this world. Who is he, man? Some will say, mother. My mother had her boyfriend. The one you chose must be the best, isn't it? But indeed, that's what the men say, mother. And I say, now, if the only good woman in this world is your mother, how about the mother to your children? And then he started thinking that their wives are also important. And slowly, then 2 or 3 men actually agreed that the best thing in those projects must be participatory. And it's participatory, and the way you are going to, if they participate in the problem identification, and then I'm not going to the details because you have what we call the problem tree analysis, isn't it? Then when you use that model, they will start now feeling, because they are participatory, they are producing, and you have broken the ice so that they are free to. Otherwise, when you impose, what did the Action Aid do? They came because the woman has a role to fetch for water and all that. So they sank, we call it a deep well or whatever, and they wrote in Fund 96, Action Aid, and then in Fund 12, Tangle Bay Water Project. So whenever that project was needed repair, the people are saying, but this is Action Aid project because of what they have. And again, they brought the solutions from without. They did not involve the people. So participatory has helped in solving some of those problems. And then arts and science. Entrepreneurs are both born and made. And the leadership is both an art and a science. That's what we believe in entrepreneurs. I mean in entrepreneurship. And therefore, yes, those two must. In fact, the person who has just come here and that made this, what was it? The spoken word. Is that not entrepreneurship? Is that not creativity? And like the professor said, me, I am mentoring. The boy sitting in front here is my son. He's taking videos. And that video, you'll find it on YouTube. Is it not business? Indeed. So you don't have to be technically savvy to be an entrepreneur. Both, and all of us were born with some entrepreneurial traits in us. It is just a question of thinking, like the speaker told us. Think and identify your own self. So there is a rich story. And that is, and I think the leader said it all. You must first of all know what you need and what you want. There is economists are here, they know what are needs and what are wants. Of course, in the business, the ones will give you more money because they are luxurious people or whatever, but they need. So identifying what you need and what you want is very important, and probably addressing your needs so that they become the base of your wants might sell better, in my opinion.
Yeah, and maybe just to add on that, you asked what are we doing at my organization, NOPE, on helping the youth balance between their needs and their wants. We work with youth at different points of their lives. We have children. We focus a lot on life skills, self-esteem, self-image at a particular age. And then we are also implementing a program called Dreams. How many of us have heard of Dreams? Who can tell us what Dreams stands for? D, determined. R, resilient. E, empowered. A, AIDS-free. M, mentored. And S, safe.